Hey everyone, it's Kaiyan here in Sydney, Australia. I'm in my studio. Really hot day today, but to celebrate of my latest single Cressida, I'll be doing a production walkthrough of the track. Let's look at the kick, which is the main element for all dance music. Let's play that. So this is just a simple club kick that I've based off a sample, but I've played around with the sound. So a tool that I really like to use is Shaper Box by Cable Guys. Here you can actually split out the low, mid, and high frequencies of the kick, so you can accentuate parts of the kick more. So as you can see here, I've wanted to bring more of the lows because it's kind of a more clubbier vibe. Kind of taking off quite a lot of the highs, and it's also done by my by EQ. I just usually take off the high end of the kicks, and I'll layer it with a top end kick that I prefer more. Then I also really like this tool, which is called Bark of Dog. I think it's a free plugin and it's really useful. It really allows you to shape the sound of the kick with, I guess, 3 very simple knobs. So let's hear it without those 2 plugins. As you can see, there's a lot of decay in the kick, which is kind of not needed. You want a short, succinct kick that can deliver your track and bring it groove that also complements the bass line. So those 2 plugins are my go-to. I also added a transient shaper with just a very subtle increase in the attack, just to give the kick more drive. With my kicks I also like to add a sub kick, and that's usually made in Serum. And here in Serum, along with the top kick, so both, if I play just the sub kick and the top kick by themselves, it sounds like this. So it's making up for what I've taken out in the actual kick sample, and altogether it sounds like this. Moving on, the drums, quite a simple loop. Let's play it through. So I'll just let it play. There's usually with claps, I layer it with a wide clap, a central clap, and then kind of like a transient clap as well. So you can see this one is just kind of the transient of the kick. I'm only taking the top end of this sample. This one is more like the kind of got some reverb and got some decay. And then there's a wide clap that usually complements it well, and so that gives you a nice whole kick. And then also with the MIDI, I like to place the kicks a bit off grid, so then I can actually there's actually a bit of width to the kick as well, naturally. Moving on, there's kind of this very simple off-hat loop rhythm, and it's just adds enough drive and groove to the drums that makes the drums work well with the kick. So got some tambourines, some 16th hats. I really love the use of vocoder. It really transforms the sound of a kick sample from something very generic to something that's usable. And then I just play around with the attacks, the forming, and also the release and dry wetness of each sound. Without the vocoder, you can hear the percussive loop sound of this. So it's a more, grainy kind of sound, but with the vocoder it's got a lot more texture to it. So if we play the drums and the kick together, it sounds like this. That's a nice groove. So if we move on to the main synth, which is what you hear throughout the whole track, it sounds like this. Just play it through. So it's got a very nice, thick, wide sounding sound, and it covers a lot of the frequency spectrum. So this track is actually, if I break it down, it really is the kick, the drums, some atmospheres, and this main synth. If we're breaking down the core elements, and then some vocal samples here and there. But yeah, let's dive into the MIDI of the synth. So as you can see, there's the MIDI. I usually, for my melodies, I usually just play something, or if I hear something in my head, I'll just click them in. This one I've made this sound in Serum. Just two very simple sawtooth waves, playing with the cutoff, the drive, some of the decay, some of the curve, the noise. I think in melodic house and progressive house, modulation and automation is very important, just to keep the listeners tuned in. I use a lot of EQs, probably too many. In this instance, I could probably just use one, but I like to have them visually spread out. And one good thing about Ableton's EQ is that you can actually see what you're reducing or increasing in terms of frequencies without having to open the plugin. So really useful EQ tool that I love to use. With most of my synths as well, I like to add decapitator, just really subtly though, nothing too major, especially with the BFG setting. With the pluck also, I've layered it. So this is the main synth, just sounds like this, the one I just showed you. And then there's also this background synth that kind of adds a bit of width, and it's layered with the intent to make the sound appear like one sound, firstly for the listener, but also to give it an extra dimension, because without it, as you heard, does sound a bit thin, the main synth. So if I play this one just by itself, it's kind of like a little flute. It's just a simple stock Ableton plugin. And then I also like to add, another element, like another layer, which just plays, individual notes of that melody. So if I click into the MIDI, as you can see, it's not playing all the notes of the main synth. So I'll just play this, and you can hear what it sounds like. Just to give it, an accent, like in classical piano, it's, you have the people mark, where you want the accents to bring out, a certain motif or a certain part of the melody. It's no different in electronic music, so that's what I usually do. And then I've also laid it with another top layered synth, and then all together they sound like this. Very nice and thick sounding, and I think that's the ultimate aim you want from a main melody. It's to be poignant, it's to be memorable, it's to be a sound that's warm, that people are invited to dance to. So if I play everything from the kick, the drums, and the main synth, it sounds like this. Really got a nice groove going. And if I'm being honest, that's 70% of the track nearly. So let's move into the bass. So with my bass, I've got the sub bass, which is ranging from the 60 to 100 hertz range. Let's just play that through. It's just mainly for clubs, so people can hear that that warmth sound that they want in a bass. This is side chained to the kick, so making sure that none of the frequencies are clashing. And then there's also the mid bass, which I usually layer with. So I've separated the mid bass into the low and high regions. The low one is just a simple sine wave I've made in Serum, and I've just played it with the wave position and also made it a really quick short attack. As you can see, the envelope, it's quite short, not much hold or decay, and then also got a filter on it, and it sounds like this. Really like this Renaissance bass plugin by Waves. Really adds some, just grit and just makes it sound a bit dirty, which is kind of what you want. What I was looking for in this bass sound. So I've just added a bit more sub frequencies in it to just give it an extra, some power. Then also with my high bass, I've it was made in Serum, but I've bounced it to audio, and a lot of the times I do like to bounce parts of my bass in audio, because then I can actually visually see the bass line playing as it's with the kick. And here you can see there's some frequencies that are actually playing at the same time the kick, which is why it's important to have side chaining on the kick, on the bass, and just to make sure that it's not interfering with the kick. And then I also like to add perk hits to it, which kind of accentuate the bass line as well. So it's similar to layering of your synths, kicks, everything. It's all to do with layering to make sure the sound is nice and solid and nice and thick. So let's hear what it sounds like all together with all the elements I've shown you. The next prominent part of the track is the atmospheres, which you'll hear throughout the track. So this, in this genre, it's very important. There's a lot of, sounds that are in your face, but then it's also important to complement them with, sounds that are in the background that people can just hear a melody of, that's just, kind of floating around, which kind of gives the listener just something, an extra dimension to listen to. So without it, if I play it without the atmospheres, you can actually hear what it sounds like. It sounds a bit like it's missing something, right? With the atmosphere, it's like you need to find, you need to complement the main melody as well. It can't just be, something that's wide, that doesn't really fit the melody well. So yeah, that's a very key and integral part of the track. And then also, as part of the build-up in the breakdown is probably one of my favorite parts to make. It's because it gives you an opportunity to actually, give the audience a break and introduce, some new elements, or introduce, start building the energy again. And if I play the breakdown, this is what it sounds like. Still got that nice synth playing throughout the whole track. It's obviously cut the filters, cutting it off in terms of the higher frequencies, just to reduce the energy and let people rest before the big dance comes. So part of the build-up actually involves these textures, which I can show you. So this is like building into the final drop, and it's just building the tension, building the noise, opening up the frequencies. It's a combination of some brass pads, some synths, it's like a harmony. It's like an orchestra, like when they're just about to release a lot of tension. And so if I play the track without these breakdown textures, you'll notice a very big difference. With it, without, see how it's missing that energy. All those high frequencies that need to complement the main synth. So yeah, that's the breakdown. The breakdown also includes, I've taken a bass from the Moog. I've got the sub 37 right here, so it just sounds like this. I find with a lot of breakdowns, the extended legato bass really works well. Given that in the previous choruses and verses, it's a very stabby, plucky bass, but with legato bass, it gives you the opportunity to actually give more melody, create more sustain, and it allows you to actually have more drawn out chords, which is what you want in a breakdown, particularly in this genre. So yep, that's the breakdown. Noises, I don't think I need to go through them. It's just very simple white noises and reversed kind of sounds or vocals to introduce every new phrase. So I'll just play it through and you can have a listen as to what it sounds like. Such an underrated part of the track because it's what also builds the tension, and the noise actually makes the sound or the drop appear larger simply because it's white noise. It's more frequencies that people can hear. So those are the noises. I've also got these background FX kind of noises. I'll just play them through. Again, just adding some additional textures to the track. Again, without, you won't actually. It's actually until you've seen this tutorial and you go back and listen to it, you'll be like, oh wow, like now I'm hearing it. But maybe when you're first listening to a track, or it's very, sometimes you won't hear these kind of little elements, but these are what makes these tracks exciting. These are, with progressive house and melodic house, it's all about, making sure you're building and progressing the listener. And I think adding these kind of little FX sounds here and there really adds another dimension to the track. Sounds a bit bare, right? But if I add it in, it's like, ooh, there's like, you know, it's everything about an orchestra again. I love referring back to orchestra, but there's so many different, you know, instruments that need to play a role. And, you know, with the FX, it's, you know, very subtle, but it adds so much to your track. So these are usually, you know, put inside to the back. I've usually taken off a lot of the highs so it doesn't appear as in front for the listener, and it's more in the back of the mix. And then if we look into the vocal sample, it's this, I really like this. It really completed the track, I would say. And this is what it sounds like. So you know, this has got quite a lot of echo boy. I love this tool. The 1.5 note echo time is usually works really well for the lead vocal. Take out some of the lows and the highs, just to make sure there's no clashes of frequencies with the kick when it comes back in. Then there's also the Oxford inflator, which I always love to add to all my tracks. Just adds to it, makes the sound more full. It's just one of those little magic plugins. And then now, if we look into the actual vocal, the sample was actually taken, I think I took it from Splice, but yeah, it's very hard to find vocals these days that actually, you know, complement your track. And you know, a lot of the A&Rs, I'm sure Adam will attest to this, but you know, when you can hear someone's just, you know, dropped in a vocal from Splice or from, you know, wherever sample, you know, library you're going from, it's quite obvious. So, you know, this is what I guess differentiates, you know, the better producers out there versus the producers that are still, you know, in the, you know, still learning. It's important to actually be creative in the process as well, not just robotic. So the actual sample sounds like this. So as you can see, like, the first half of the vocal actually doesn't really, you know, doesn't really sound like they're actually together, because this Yeah Baby is actually coming from actually a different vocalist, but it's one sample. And you know, I think a tip I would say is, you know, with your vocals or with any sample, don't just drag and drop it in and be lazy. You know, try and play around with certain settings and, you know, pitch it down, or, you know, pitch it a few semitones up, or, you know, add some, you know, distortion to it, you know, put it under a manipulator or a vocoder and see how it sounds, because, you know, that's what makes your track stand out from the others who are, you know, also using the sample. And then there's also the Vox effect, which is kind of like the background vocals that you kind of hear in the background. And these are what they sound like. And these really complement the Yeah Babies quite well. Yeah, baby. It's kind of like a call and response. And yeah, that's essentially Cressida. If you guys like that production video, be sure to tune in to my YouTube channel and subscribe. Appreciate all your love on this track, and hope to see you guys, you know, on the dance floor one day. And for all you producers out there, you know, just keep pushing on, and take care. See you next time.